And we are live. Like and subscribe to the channel, baby. If you love the title, if you hate the title, post in the comments. Send me your email. Subscribe and like. I'm going to have to carry this show because Cam is so angry and distraught. He might have just punched his neighbor. Right now, we don't know. We did have a couple minutes between shows. We just had Jordy McElroy on the show from the Patriots Wire. We definitely appreciate him coming on. And he said that I don't think Jimmy G is coming back. He said he wants Cam Newton back. He thinks he's Cam Newton back. And I actually agree that if I'm a Patriots fan, do I want Cam Newton back? Absolutely not. But I do think he's coming back, at least as a backup, worst case scenario. Cam, if you're able to collect your thoughts, let's hear it. The donkey of the year, Bill Belichick, 2020 season. If you read the title, is Bill Belichick. Cam, let's hear it. He's out of breath.
Let's
hear it. Go ahead. Roll with it.
If Cam Newton is under center for the New England Patriots week 1, I'm out. I'm out. I can't do look. I can't do that again. I cannot watch for 16 weeks Cam Newton whipping the ball at the feet of his receiver that's wide open 7 yards in front of him. I can't not being able to read a blitz. I can't with the 4 straight running plays from fourth and no. For God's sakes, I just the thought of it right now, I can feel my blood pressure rising at the thought of that happening again. And I might be coming across as a spoiled Patriots fan right now, and I probably am.
You are a spoiled Patriots fan, but keep going.
I'm not expecting Tom Brady to come through the gates of Foxborough again.
I knew this would happen. I knew when Brady left, because I've seen it, Cam. I've experienced football for many years. I've seen it. I've seen nothing like that. 20-year run, 6 titles. But what you saw at the Super Bowl, Tom Brady versus the field, Tom Brady has the most. Pick any team in the league, including the Patriots with 6, and Tom Brady's got more championships. And I'm telling you right now, when you look at the numbers, I've heard many conflicting reports about Jimmy G. Maybe they keep him, maybe they don't. They said again today, maybe they're going to trade him, maybe they won't. I don't think that Jimmy G is coming to New England. He might, but I doubt it. And honestly, even if he does come to New England, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. Cam is extremely angry. I'm talking about Vieira here. Vieira is angry. I do think Cam Newton's going to be back because there's nobody else wants him. Nobody else wants him. And worst case scenario, he does have a year in the system. If they don't get Jimmy G, they're going to maybe they bring in a Fitzpatrick, maybe they bring in a Case Keenum, somebody in that realm. But yes, I do think worst case scenario, Cam Newton will at least be back as a backup because nobody's going to pay him $15, $20 million plus as a starter. So yeah, I do think Cam Newton's going to be back, and I think things are going to get worse before they get better for the Patriots. I really believe that.
I'll say what I said to Jordy. If he's here to compete for the job, if he's here to come into training camp and he has to compete for the job, you could possibly talk me into it. I'm not handing him the keys. But it's just I'll say what I was going to say a moment. I'm not expecting Tom Brady. You're never going to see anyone like that ever again. I do think I have a baseline expectation of someone who can throw the ball.
Okay, well, let's go with that baseline. I was trying to get that instead of Jordy. Jordy gave us Jimmy G, which is fine. I know. Again, honestly, I know.
Gardner Minshew.
Again, to me, the one thing I was going to say to Jordy, look, Ryan Fitzpatrick, these are terrible quarterbacks. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick's okay.
They can throw. They can throw the ball.
Okay, they can throw. That's true, but they can't run. So
Cam Newton's not even an elite running quarterback anymore.
Well, he did have 12 rushing touchdowns last
year.
Most
of them were 1 yard.
Okay. But I'm just saying, okay, if Ryan Fitzpatrick, we're already getting people, the views are coming in. I think the algorithms are kicking in here. If Ryan Fitzpatrick comes there, what is he going to do with N'Keal Harry and the rest of this group?
Look, no matter who the quarterback is, they need to drastically improve the receiving core. This Patrick Mahomes would struggle in this offense. Never mind.
Yes. You know who else Patrick Mahomes would struggle with? Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Sammy Watkins and Clyde Hilaire and Le'Veon Bell. He would also struggle with those guys without a great offense. So, yes, the whole structure matters. Yes.
I've said this to you many times. I think the Patriots' number one priority this offseason, besides quarterback, is Hunter Henry. I think you go out there, you make him the highest paid tight end in the league. You put a bag of money in front of him. Bill Belichick loves Hunter Henry. He scouted Hunter Henry since high school. When they played the Chargers this year, he raved about him in his press conferences. The Patriots are going to go out to Hunter Henry hard.
Okay, let's say that's true. Let's say they love Hunter Henry. Let's say they get Hunter Henry. Let's say they give Hunter Henry $15 million. Here's what I wanted to get into, which you don't want to hear, and I was going to bring this up with Jordy. You know, Jordy's is a Patriots beat writer, and that's great. So the PatriotsWire.com, and that's all great, okay? And they're partnered with USA Today, and they're picked up by Yahoo, and all these great things. But here is the fact that people are missing. They've got the fourth most payroll. I want to say give or take roughly in the $54 million range. He's right. They're ranked fourth. Let's say you have to sign a Hunter Henry for $15 million. Okay. Now you've got $38 million. Then let's say you sign one elite corner and or one elite D lineman. You're minus $20 million. You're now down to the $17-18 million range. So I understand they're fourth, but you're talking about signing two elite guys, an elite corner, maybe an elite defensive end, and a Hunter Henry, and then you got enough to sign your free agents and maybe a couple slight upgrades. It's not like this team has got just this overwhelming amount of revenue. The salary cap is down.
Because of the lack of attendance.
Of all of the years, this is going to be, in my opinion, one of the hardest years to go from worst to first. We've seen it done.
I don't expect worse to first.
Okay, I'm just saying. Okay, so let me ask you this question: if Ryan Fitzpatrick comes and he throws for 4,200 yards, he throws for 30 touchdowns, and you win 7 games again, but he passes for a lot of yards, is that going to make you feel better? If he passes for a lot of yards, and wins 7 games?
Do I have a competent? Let me give you a caveat. Do I have a young quarterback that's being developed on the bench?
No, you do not. No, because Jarrett Stidham does not count.
No, I'm not talking about him. Jarrett Stidham's irrelevant. I'm talking about.
No, I'm telling you, no. You don't have Fields. You don't have Jones. No.
I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about a second or third round pick who's going to spend 2 years on the bench. Do I have one of those?
Okay, I mean, maybe you get a guy. Maybe you get the 10th or 11th best quarterback. Is that exciting to you?
My goal for the Patriots this year. Let me get this out there right now. I don't say worst to first. I am not in this delusional mindset that we're going to be a Super Bowl team. That's just not going to happen. I don't care who they sign. They could trade for Deshaun Watson. They're not going to be a Super Bowl team.
Right. Because you know what? And I said this to you before, and I know you're in love with Deshaun Watson. I like Deshaun Watson too. I've met Deshaun Watson. I think he's a great young man. I think he's fantastic. On and off the field. He won 4 games. Don't tell me he threw 30, 35. He led the league in passing. Great. You know who else led the league in passing? Jameis Winston led the league in passing the year before. He threw 30 interceptions. Right. Okay?
So
the year before that, Big Ben led the league in passing. Just throwing 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, regardless of the guy's name, it doesn't do anything. But go ahead. Go ahead and finish your point.
I got to say one more thing about the offseason before we get into my Bill Belichick anger, because there's plenty of there. That is this. My goal for the Patriots this year is just you got to walk before you can run. I just want to see 8 or 9 wins and be a respectable team. That's all. That's what my expectation is. I don't expect what you just said. I do expect them to break the bank for Hunter Henry. I think he is their top.
Okay, fine.
player.
I'll give you Hunter Henry. Say I gave you Hunter Henry.
But after that, I expect a bunch of second-tier signings. I expect Curtis Samuel.
Okay.
I expect guys like that. I don't
Curtis Samuel, Emmanuel Sanders.
I don't expect Allen Robinson. I don't expect Chris Godwin. I don't expect guys like that. I expect them to sign second or third tier receivers. The receiving group still won't be great, but the lack of a tight end has hurt them more than the lack of receivers. I think these last 2 years the 2 years in a row they've been ranked 32nd in tight end play.
How many years in a row they've been ranked 32nd? 2 years in a row since
Gronk left.
Okay, you're right. Yes, because they didn't have Gronk. Obviously, they haven't had Gronk in 2 years. Correct. Yes, right. Having an elite tight end. Yes, not having Gronk and not having Brady obviously has derailed their team. That has just been right. Exactly.
When they were at their peak, they had a competent second tight end, whether it was Hernandez, whether it was Wright, whether it was Martellus Bennett. They always had a competent second tight end. Now they don't have any tight ends.
Right. They've got a bunch of terrible guys from UCLA and this just terrible programs.
But again,
guys that are borderline fullbacks are too short for this position, too small for this position. It's terrible. I mean, that's part of the thing with Bill Belichick. He's done the reason why he's the donkey of the year of the 2020 NFL season, and I'm going to say it again. Number one, his ego got out of control. He honestly thought
he was more
that he could win 10 or 11 games with Cam Newton and this roster. He thought that.
Yes, he did. But here's my thing. Before we get into Bill Belichick here, but let me state for the record again: Cam Newton in, Cam Vieira out. I'll just sit for the record as that. Cam Newton in, Cam Vieira out.
See ball, get ball was
Bill Belichick.
Okay.
I just have a simple question. Why? Your ego is so big. You just couldn't subjugate yourself. You have to treat everybody the same. The greatest quarterback and the greatest tight end of all time, you had to treat them like the Gunners and like the special teams linebackers. They're not any different. But this whole thing, Preston, of who was more important, Belichick or Brady, do you know where that argument started?
I believe it was from that book is when one of his coaches said we can win.
Bill Belichick. Yes.
Now he said this, but from what I understand, it was from that book. One of his, I'm going to say the scouts, one of his coaches said, we believe we could have won the same amount of titles or close to it with Andy Dalton. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you read that book cover to cover twice.
It was any of the top 15 quarterbacks.
Right.
That was the name put to it. But also, it started before then. Way back in 2001, when they beat the greatest show on turf. When the book about that season was released that summer, a Patriots coach was quoted saying, "I can't believe we beat the greatest show on turf with these bums." From the very beginning, they made it about them. The whole stuff about the do your job features, they made it all about the coaching staff. The Malcolm Butler interception remember, they made a point to point out to you that they practiced that exact play in practice all week long. They made it about them. And this is an argument that only existed in New England. Has anybody ever suggested Andy Reid's more important than Patrick Mahomes?
No.
Has anybody ever suggested Pete Carroll's more important than Russell Wilson?
No, in fact, I've been reading from a lot of reports, and Cowherd talked about this today. I caught a little bit of his show on the way over on my phone right before I came in, that actually Pete Carroll is on the hot seat a little bit because of the way he's handled Russell Wilson. Right.
And they're going to side with the quarterback. Of course they are. I wouldn't be surprised. If the Seahawks have another down year they'll be a good team and they'll make the playoffs. But if they don't go far, I wouldn't be surprised if Pete Carroll's done there after this season. But it's just when you push out a guy like Tom Brady, you better have the next guy ready to go. When the 49ers determined it was time to move on from Joe Montana.
Hey, let me stop you there. Are you? Yeah, you're freezing up there. So let's. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, I get you loud and clear.
You're freezing up. You're freezing up. Your screen's freezing up. So kind of adjust your screen there because you're freezing up there.
You see me giving a thumbs up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going. Go ahead.
When the 49ers determined it was time to move on from Joe Montana, they had Steve Young. When the Packers determined it was time to move on from Brett Favre, they had Aaron Rodgers. You determined it was time to move on from Tom Brady, and your answer was Cam Newton and Jarrett Stidham? It's just
that's
arrogance.
A horrible plan. It's arrogance. It's
arrogance.
cockiness. Let me tell you something else, and I felt this at the time. The reason why the 2007 Patriots with Randy Moss,
the undefeated team,
the undefeated 18-0 team, the reason they lost that final game was 100% Bill Belichick's fault. I firmly felt that.
You're talking about the field goal, correct? Where they
I'm talking about the game. I'm talking about the reason they lost that game is they thought they were going to put up 40 points against the Giants.
In their sleep.
They thought because they put up 38 points the last game of the season, they beat them 38-35, and that gave the Giants extreme confidence. They said, we lost to the greatest team of all time by a field goal. We are going to bring the fire. We're going to rush every play, blitz every play. And I'm telling you, the fact that he, didn't kick 45-yard field goals. He thought they could go for it on 4th and 13. They didn't run the ball. They didn't max protect. They didn't run any good plays that
Tom
were
Brady was
smart.
carrying on a high ankle sprain in that game, remember?
Right. And he was banged up. Absolutely. There was a lot of problems in that game, and the Patriots did a horrible job in that game. Horrible. Bill Belichick specifically is what we're talking about.
No,
so, yeah.
The 3 Super Bowl losses the Patriots had were all on Bill Belichick. We don't even need to get into Malcolm Butler. The defensive game plan against both Giants games were horrible. So it's just, he's the greatest coach of all time. I don't dispute that. His game planning and his recognition of flow and his clock, there's no one I'd rather have. It's the GM work that has killed this team. They had not drafted a Pro Bowler since 2013.
And who was that?
Jamie Collins, who they let go twice.
Right. Again, he's a Pro Bowler, but you fired him twice. I mean, I get it. You're bringing him then and back and blah, 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 blah.
But this is the thing. I have no faith that the Patriots, and we got into this cap space thing, and the reason I believe they will sign Hunter Henry is because Bill Belichick has scouted him since high school.
That's great.
In love with him
they can go. He can go. Bill Belichick can go in the steam room with Hunter Henry. That's fine. And I know that.
But here's the
and I agree. You guys could overpay Hunter Henry, and I would say it's more likely than not
that you should.
That you should. And I think it's more likely than not that he does get that money, because as great as Hunter Henry is, and he is one of the best tight ends, and I'm going to bring up this list here in a moment. No team needs a tight end as desperate as the Patriots, and no team is willing to overpay more than the Patriots.
You even said to me a few nights ago that the Patriots should try and trade for your O.J. Howard, correct?
Correct.
But
they absolutely should.
But here's my thing. All indications from the Patriots beat writers around here, it doesn't feel like they've been humbled by this past season, by the fact that they were embarrassed. It was bad enough when they just missed the playoffs and Brady was in the playoffs. Brady then went on a run. Brady won 3 straight playoff games on the road. He beat Breeze, Rodgers, and Mahomes on the way to his 7th championship. That's the greatest run any quarterback's ever had, to beat those 3 guys. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. Let's do this. Let's reset the stage. You want to get in the salary cap? We got a few minutes. Here are the top. I'm only going to name the top 5 tight ends. The top 5 free and tight ends in 2021. Number 1, Hunter Henry from the Chargers. Jonnu Smith, number 2. Gerald Everett, number 3. Rob Gronkowski, 4. Jared Cook, number 5. Number 5. Those are the top 5 guys. So definitely Rob Gronkowski is great.
But he's not coming to New England.
But he's not coming to New England. Absolutely not. So I'm taking him out. Odds are he'll re-sign with the Bucs. So you've got Hunter Henry. I'm putting Gronk to the side. You've got Hunter Henry and a bunch of random, okay, middle of the road, solid. You'd be okay with them. You know, if they were your second, if they were your senior, if they were your second tight end, you'd be ecstatic. If they were your first tight end, you bet again. Like look at Gerald Everett. He looks like an okay tight end, but look at his receivers. You know, you got Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp and all the guys like there.
Kellen Winslow compared to the Patriots tight ends. Kellen Winslow Sr.
Exactly. Right. We don't want to get into junior. That would take us down a very wrong road, and we don't got enough lotion to get into that. So let me go back here really quick before I forget with the quarterbacks. Okay. So again, here are I'm scrolling upwards. So the receivers popped up. Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kenny Galladay, Will Fuller. Those are the top 5 receivers.
Again, I think I see them signing some second-tier guys. Will Fuller.
I kind of think with the exception of Chris Godwin, I think those guys are kind of second tier personally. Myself, I think Allen Robinson's a bubble first tier. I think he's a bubble. I think he's a first tier on a lower tier team.
Just because he's so slow, right?
He's super slow. He's a tight end as far as I'm concerned.
He's got great hands, but he can't run, right?
Right. Well, he's slow, unathletic. Okay, here we go. So here are the quarterbacks, free agents: Dak Prescott, Mitchell Trubisky, Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton, Ryan Fitzpatrick, according to this.
I would take all 5 of those guys over Cam Newton.
I would agree.
We're not going to get into. I mean, obviously, look,
what do you mean we're not going to get into? Why can't we get into Dak Prescott?
Well, because he's not going to go anywhere. But I'll be honest with you right now. If I were the Patriots, I would give Dak Prescott a Jared Goff, Carson Wentz type contract.
Of course. Because
first of all, he's better than those two.
He's better, right?
They need, and look, I know we get hurt this year. Dak Prescott is a more than capable, and for some reason he gets a lot of crap from people, probably because he's the quarterback of the Cowboys, and people just by nature root against that guy. Dak Prescott is a very good quarterback. Wouldn't you agree?
He is a very good quarterback. He's a top 10 quarterback when he's healthy. The reason he gets a lot of hate is because he is whiny. He is complaining about his money.
And
Tom Brady never did that. He's sponsored. He's got the yogurt and the he's got 15 all of these companies sponsoring him because he's for the Cowboys. If he'd have been drafted by Cincinnati or anybody else or Cleveland, nobody would have cared about him. Period.
Correct.
So for 4 years, he had the best O-line, the best running backs, very good tight ends, very good. He was stacked at the levels. So, and I know he threw for a lot of yards the first 3 games of the year, but he didn't do a good job of winning games early in the year. Now, having said that, I do think if the Patriots were smart, they would swing for the fence with Dak, swing for the fence with Hunter Henry, swing for the fence with Chris Godwin. You do those 3 things, you're in the mix. 9, 10, 11, you're in the mix if you swing for those fence. But if you don't get a Hunter Henry, even if you get a Hunter Henry, you got to have the quarterback. It's about the quarterback.
I'll take any guy who can throw the ball, period.
Well,
my bar is so low, it's not even funny. I'd rather have Joe Flacco than Cam Newton.
No, I wouldn't go that far. Joe Flacco is beyond done. His body's shot, his arm is shot, everything about him is shot.
Played pretty decent for the Jets this year.
The team with the 2nd overall pick? I don't even know that I'm more stunned than you were stunned. That's a stunning comment. So Joe Flacco played great this year. That's what you're telling me?
Decent.
Okay. So 2 wins. I'm just saying that the bar is in one season. Just look at the Avalanche. A year ago, if we don't go to the AFC Championship game, it's a disappointing season. We need blah, blah, blah. Now Brady's gone, we're looking at the guys. The Avalanche is falling. The volcano is falling. The hurricane, everything.
Michael Felger, who we have had on the air on our show, said on his show today,
right?
It was in the last segment of the day. You let Tom Brady. Tom Brady is Babe Ruth, Michael Jordan, and Wayne Gretzky wrapped into one.
Right.
That's who he is. Out the door.
Yep.
After you had him for 20 years.
Yep.
And we're now talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick and Gardner Minshew, and I'm not joking. I heard those names. I'm like, no, I'd do that.
No, I believe you. I believe you heard those names, and I believe you in your mind you're thinking, but this is why, I am critical. I am critical of quarterbacks, and this is what I said. My concern with Deshaun Watson coming out, my scouting analysis, you said he's the best quarterback and the best player in this draft. You take him number 1 overall. What you said?
That's correct.
What's that? Okay, no, that's fine. No, that was a fine take. That was not a bad take at all. My point is, my concern is not that he can't play because he can. My concern is that he's tall and lean, and he has a tendency to get injury prone, and he's been injured a couple times. Cowherd said this again today. If Deshaun Watson gets injured again in a year or 2, people are going to move off of him. At 26 years old, 25, 26, they're just going to move off.
They have Jimmy G this year, right?
Look at Jimmy G. Nobody wants Jimmy G except for the Patriots, and it's a little bit of
right.
It's a little bit of folklore with Jimmy G. It's he's back. It's a little bit of the Brady effect overflow. It's a little bit of the
guy who you thought was going to be the savior is coming.
The guy that thought that for years, it's a 4-year nostalgia with Jimmy G.
An odyssey, right? It's
if he comes back, the fantasy. You can still live the Patriot way fantasy through Jimmy G. Jimmy G is really your only, in my opinion, fantasy way back to the future, if you will, unless you get a Russell Wilson, unless you get a Deshaun Watson, or unless you get a Dak Prescott. I think the Patriots have got to stop. Look, I know you and all the Patriots guys are like, we finally have a top 15 pick. Let's make 15 picks great again. Okay, well, 15 picks overall are not great. Okay, the 15 picks historically have not been great.
Well, we went over the last 2 drafts. Last year was Jerry Jeudy. That was a great pick, but the year before was Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy's fine. You'd love to have Jerry Jeudy in the Patriots. He's fine. There's nothing wrong with Jerry Jeudy, but there's also Jerry Jeudy's not Justin Jefferson or DK Metcalf. He's not those guys, right?
No, he's not. You're right.
Okay, so just so we're clear here. Just so we're clear. If Cam Newton is back and starting next year, that's it. You're done. You're not watching it.
I'll watch it, but I won't enjoy it. and I'll be very angry.
Let me tell you something right now. I know you don't want to hear this. The Patriots won 7 games next year, which many people could consider a okay or solid year considering their talent or lack thereof. I'm saying this. I could see a scenario where they win 7 or less games next year.
I can too. I can absolutely see that.
And again, it's still very, very early. It's still very, very early. Very, very early. But I can see a scenario where, it doesn't keep your hat on, keep your shirt on. I could just see a scenario where it just doesn't work. It doesn't work out that well for the Patriots. You can't. Okay, so I've named you some of the guys. Let me name a couple more free agents. I've told you the guys. Hunter Henry, so on and so forth. We talked about that. Let me see if I can find the defensive guy. Okay, top running back. Do you feel good with your running back?
Yeah, with Damian Harris, Sony Michel. Yeah,
Sony Michel. Oh, you think he's kind of
well? James White's a free agent. He's probably gone.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that goes. Let me take a look at the defensive guys. See if we can. Okay, Von Miller, Leonard Williams, Melvin Ingram, Bud Dupree, Shaq Barrett, Jadeveon Clowney. I gotta say, would you be upset if you got Jadeveon Clowney if you had to pay him 15, 16? You'd be cool with Jadeveon Clowney?
100%.
Okay. Let's take a look
Beggars
here.
Can't be choosers.
Okay. Von Miller recorded this as the number 1 defensive player.
Well, it came out today
available.
that the Broncos are declining his option. So, yeah, he's about to be a free agent.
Really? I did not see it. They are declining his option.
Yep.
Wow. What was it, like $20 million a year?
Yeah, he's coming off of multiple injuries. He's got an off-field problem now. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, with his girlfriend and ex-girlfriend, domestic, and this and that. Well, boy, Von Miller. You know what? I'll tell you what. His star is faded. But I'll tell you this right now: if he comes to Tampa Bay, I would. Oh my God! Teams up with his old teammates Shaq Barrett, JPP. Oh, Vita V, David White. Oh my God! We won't even need corners. If we get Von Miller, we'll just play with 7 guys. Okay? We get Von Miller. Don't even worry about the corners.
Before we go here, because we got to get going, I got to ask you about one guy that was linked to you guys potentially. Cast off. Would you take Richard Sherman on the cheap?
On the cheap, I would. Yeah, on the cheap. As a veteran guy, as a corner / safety, I would. Yeah.
There we go.
So, yeah, the like and subscribe to the channel. Like and subscribe in the comments. We appreciate this channel. We are going to get ready for James Stewart's.
Yes, we are.
About 10 minutes. Have you heard from him in the last 10 minutes? Or
I have not been able to check, but I will check when we get off the air.
All right. Check. Like and subscribe. Comment below. Thanks again.